Welcome back to another episode of SMACtalk, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. Today we are talking social media versus social network. Before we get into that, my name is Brian Fanzo, better known as iSocialFans on the Twitters, joined every episode by my co-host, Mr. Daniel Newman. And in a rare occurrence, we are both home recording this episode from our home abode. We will be taking this on the road very soon. But how are you doing, Daniel? I know lots of things going on in your place, houses and moving and cars and new books out. I heard there's something to do with dragons. You can drop a free plug here since I threw you up the softball.
I would never go on air and promote my new book, Building Dragons, Digital Transformation in the Experience Economy, on my podcast, because I just find people who promote themselves to be, it's exhausting and tiring for me. So I would never do that. So I did not just do a promotion for my new book, Building Dragons. We don't talk about how to build a company that's ultimately adaptable and agile to survive, thrive, and become amazing in a world of rapid change. But I'm doing very well, Brian. It's been a great week. Published a ton of stuff, bought a company, which I haven't even told you those details yet. I'll be spilling that news soon. And we've got a great event coming up here in, and I'm coughing, man. I'm laughing at myself. Laughing at my own self-promotion. But we got a great event coming up in just about 2 weeks. We're going to be in Orlando together for a week doing some really exciting stuff on some of these new live platforms. But today, I want to talk a little bit about a story that's maybe a success, maybe a failure, one of your and my favorite social networks that's in constant flux. Tell everybody what is going on with Twitter that's inspiring our podcast today.
So this is breaking news. Everybody turn up the volume of your podcast if you are listening to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all those other fun places you can listen. If you are watching us live, there are currently 27 people watching Daniel cough and choke live after the self-promotion here on Blab. We do record these shows live for our, I would say it's studio audience, but our social audience. But the breaking news, if you guys are ready for it and you're turned up, it is Twitter is no longer a social network.
Who said that? Come on. Who said that?
Twitter is so lost and so confused and so has not hired me to become their CEO that they've decided that rather than to consider themselves a social network and in the App Store when you're downloading them on iOS, instead of going to the App Store and clicking social network, you actually go to news. And what they are coming out and saying is they are now a news media. They are news real-time media. And that kind of came out of the door, recently. This is kind of the news with, Twitter has made so many changes. We're not shy about the changes. We both love Twitter. It's our favorite primary network without question. Their earnings, I wouldn't say were horrible, but the earnings weren't as many had hoped. And this is the most recent news that came out that they're kind of changing what they're calling themselves. And I'm curious, Daniel, you and I haven't even talked about this yet, other than this is what we really wanted to talk about for the show, which I think is going to make this episode even cooler. What do you think about this move? Is it just semantics? Is it the difference of putting your book in business marketing versus entrepreneurship marketing? Or is it a drastic shift maybe that allows Twitter to get their hell out of the "are you Facebook and why aren't you doing what Facebook's doing" type conversation? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've got some definite thoughts here. In the spirit of full transparency for those of you listening out in the podcast world or those here in the live studio audience, is that Brian and I actually don't plan our conversations. So as much as it sounds like we may know, this is in full transparency actually why we work so well, is we actually just jump on and talk and have this great thing. So I'll give you an interesting case. For the book I'm not promoting, but what's actually going on? No, I want to talk about this.
For those that are listening, the book link will be in the show notes below. If you're curious about that. So we will put the Amazon link
down there. It's a really good parallel, though, B. I put the book in leadership instead of in business. And it turns out that leadership books, there's like 10,000 times more leadership books than there are business books. You would think it might not be true, but there are, the way they're categorized, okay? And so when you put your rankings in, you would sell like 5 copies of a business marketing book in industrial marketing, and you would be like the number 2 bestseller on Amazon. You sell 50 copies in a day of this book on Amazon, and you're like number 1,000 in leadership. And that's kind of what I think is going on, is Twitter isn't popular as a social network anymore. And I'm serious about this. Like when people think social networks, they think Snapchat. When people talk about social networks, they think Facebook. I was teaching a class last night, seniors in college. I mentioned Twitter. None of them are on it. I'm saying none of them. They all like Snapchat. They didn't even like Instagram that much. Most of them are snapping.
That's actually a trend too. I've heard actually some backlash against Instagram recently as well.
Is that it's Snapchat, and then a lot of them use Facebook. They are using Facebook. But so what's really going on is maybe what Twitter wants is a new identity, because it's always, remember, historically it was always Facebook and Twitter. That's the way people really talked about them. On the store, on the wall, get social with us. There'd be a Facebook and here's a Twitter page. And, I think it's their identity struggle is they're saying, what are we really good at? And I think when you think about what Twitter's good for is it's where I go to get the news. I mean, it's where most people go. People I know, friends, family that use Twitter. I have like a friend who's a soccer dad, right? And he follows all the U.S. national teams and the college coaches. And what I'm saying is when he sees an interesting tweet, he grabs it, goes, reads the link, and he'll send it to me like in a text. Check out this tweet. And what I'm saying is he's not on there engaging. He's not on there socializing. He's there following certain brands and certain people to aggregate as a quick way to get news, because those news outlets are constantly sending it out. So I'm not saying I'm sure it's the right move yet, but what I am saying is I think if you went to core competency B and you said, what are they really good at? They are really good at using a crowdsourced approach to getting the best news out to people who want to be able to see it right away.
Without question, I can almost guarantee that most people that found and love Twitter actually found it when they were at a live conference. They were at a live sporting event. They wanted to connect on a conversation around the World Cup. I can almost guarantee that is the place where we have discovered Twitter. And I love that you brought up, I did see that your Facebook post that you were guest lecturing over there. So very cool to see you doing that. And, we posted a Verge article about the Twitter news, but I posted an article here in the show notes, and it's don't look now, but Twitter has momentum with the youth. And this is a Gary Vaynerchuk blog post that was written in January, or actually written in March. And what he actually was discovering is the crowd that is on Musical.ly, which is Musical.ly is another one of those social apps that's kind of growing, that is between the ages of, let's say, 10 and 18 or 10 and 17, they're now finding a love for Twitter. And it's an interesting trend because they're actually using it for exactly what you were saying, Daniel. They're using it. They love Snapchat. Snapchat's their number one. But actually, for a lot of them, Twitter was their number one because it allowed them to have public conversations and connect with these people that are they were talking about going to the Friday night football game in high school or going to meet up at the mall. They're not going to Snapchat all their friends there because they want something that's in real time, that is a public chat to let the general audience know, and then they'll snap about it when they're actually there together, which is actually a very interesting conversation because it's not really news, but I don't think of that as a social network. It's more of like real-time news and chat platform. So I think this is an interesting move by Twitter. I think they probably should have done it a while ago. Anybody who tells me they hate Twitter and then they go to explain why they hate Twitter and all I do is talk about why it's not like Facebook, that usually for me means you know nothing about Twitter. Because if you want to talk about what you don't like about Twitter, talk about Twitter, not comparing it to other things like Facebook. It's the same thing with Snapchat. I don't need Snapchat to have the same ROI as Twitter and Facebook does. I want Snapchat to provide a unique experience and unique value. So for me, it's definitely not Facebook. And maybe this gets it out of the conversation for the investors and the stock market to say, okay, we're going to stop comparing you to Facebook. But the question is, like you just said about your book, Daniel, who are they comparing themselves with now? Because in real-time news, the TV rankings, you're not going to get near the numbers that TV still gets. And sadly, most of us don't even watch the TV news. But where do you think they're going to go with that?
Well, I don't know that that's actually true. I think if you deduce it, because news tends to be localized, networks tend to have poor, way to accrue data on who's watching and who's actually paying attention, right? Because we're actually in the age of attention. We're not really in the age of viewership, right? So someone having a channel on their TV, that's an impression, right? Somebody sitting, paying attention and engaging, that's a view or actually even a commitment, right? That's making a part of an experience, right? In the age of digital transformation, we need to make every single touch point remarkable and impactful. So if you think about that, let's talk about the NFL as an example. Let's put our futurist hats on. I don't have a hat that says it yet, but maybe I should get one, like future ready. I'm going to start predicting 50 years out, so I'll be dead, and then you can tell me I'm wrong. But the point is that if you think about what they did with the NFL, what does Twitter rock at? It's aggregating of news, whatever the hottest live events are, right? People are sharing and aggregating that. You can follow the hashtags. So I can watch the NFL game. I can talk about it with my friends. Okay. And if I'm watching it and talking about it, that means I'm engaged to the content. I'm engaged on the platform and in the community. Okay. And then what I can actually do is be staying in touch and paying attention across the different channels to people that I want to hear from and talk to. So I actually think in the attention era that Twitter actually might have a shot at going after traditional media. Because think about this, Brian, traditional media is super vulnerable. You've got, the Boston Globe shutting down. You've got newspapers living, on their last bucks, right? Trying to figure out how to survive. Yahoo's a mess. AOL's a mess. Other than Google and social networks, how are people consuming? And Twitter might say, you know what, the ultimate play right now is for us to become the media, not social media, the media. Live events will add a social element to it. It's kind of like what they talked about doing with social television, right? Yeah, this is social television.
And that plays into that. It plays into that NFL deal, right? The Twitter NFL deal that we talked about a couple weeks ago. The Twitter NFL deal is, they get exclusive access to broadcast the media, rebroadcast the media for the NFL Thursday night games. And then they also get exclusive access with Periscope to give you access, the media-like access to the locker room. So I think this is a very interesting thing when we're talking about Twitter, because really, is Periscope a social network? And everyone who listens to the show knows that we're both, Daniel and I did Periscope, Facebook Live, and Blab live from the Super Bowl. I actually think of Periscope as a media channel. It's providing media. It's providing content, entertainment. It's providing, access to breaking news. Let's face it. Whenever the Prince thing came out, I immediately went to Periscope. I zoomed in on the map to figure out where Prince was found, and I said, who's periscoping near his memorial or near outside of his thing? And sure enough, I found 3 people periscoping. That was real-time news using a product that's owned by Twitter. I think you kind of sparked something for me, Daniel. It's interesting.
So Periscope plus Twitter, right, is a new level of accessibility, a new level of live media engagement, and it's actually a way to create consumption in an age where people are fighting for attention, because you actually can keep people there, get people exposed to what's most popular, crowdsource, talk, communicate, and not compete. And one of the things you guys cannot forget is that Twitter still has one thing that almost no other social network offers you, and it's a true, unfiltered access. Okay? So you choose who you follow, and nobody but you decides what you see and what you don't see.
And I think that's so underestimated. There is no other tool that allows you to find and discover people and conversations that you don't already know or like.
So you start to add and aggregate some of the things you like about other networks, but you say, okay, what if I could, you almost start to see a Netflix model, a disruptive model like Netflix had when they came full circle, right? And started creating content, right? When Netflix started developing House of Cards, they wanted to disrupt the way networks consume media. They said, we're not only going to license and show other people's content, we're going to create our own. We're going to give you this environment where you can live in, watch the content you like, where you like, how you like, all the things we've talked about in the past, Brian, with new rules of content consumption. Well, maybe Twitter in the social space is actually trying to do something very similar. And as someone, in our comments kind of said earlier, they're making decisions. And I like that. They're making decisions, and I like that. And you know what? I can tell you this, Brian, on Super Bowl Sunday, I'm not a Grammy or Academy Awards or Oscars guy, but on those nights, there's nothing that rocks social media more than Twitter, because you meet new people, you're having conversations, you're opening doors, you're hearing a completely unfiltered view. Because I'll tell you what, my Facebook stream pretty much sucks because I support a lot of people I like, because I want to support the people I like. So I have certain amounts of interactions that will increase with them, even though that's not always necessarily my favorite content to consume. So my desire to be supportive trumps my interest in getting the content I actually would most be interested in seeing, right? Twitter, I never have to worry about that. I can find everything. So I actually think they might be in a power position if they do this correctly, though. If they do this wrong, though, it could be death.
I agree. Actually, wow, you segue that perfect to me, because that's where I was going with this. I actually think this is a smart move. I think I was happy when Jack got CEO, even though they didn't hire me.
CMO, Ryan. There's still CMO role.
CMO role has my name on it. If they're listening, but I won't guarantee that they are listening. But for me, I think one of the other thing that kind of comes into account here is Jack, he's going to make decisions. He promoted Periscope's founder to an executive board role. Kayvon is now on the board there at Twitter. I believe, the Twitter NFL deal was a smart move. If they read my blog post, it could be a really smart move if they implement it how I believe they should. But part of that also comes into this idea where training, onboarding on social media is usually an easy thing except for one platform, Twitter. Sure. Twitter is the only platform that it is literally a royal pain. Like when you're trying to explain, Daniel, I had college class last night when they were like, "Oh, I don't use it," and if you asked them, I'm sure they would have said, any wide range of things. But if you would have went in there and said, "Well, let me go to the homepage and let's create a new account and let me walk you through there," it is painful. It is. So now I wonder, by switching to kind of a news focus, are they going to be able to change the UI and that onboarding process to maybe make it less about social media type, follow Ellen DeGeneres and connect with celebrities, and more about follow hashtags, follow location-based, follow periscopes. In the Periscope in the search now, you can actually search by only periscopes, which I actually think is a very neat hidden feature. So this could be a really, really interesting concept.
Well, if you look at the idea of creating remarkable and memorable experiences, right, it's connecting people to what they want to see when they want to see it. And right now, there isn't really a social network that does that well. We talked about Twitter's unfiltered, and the problem with Twitter being unfiltered is we see a lot of stuff we don't want to see there. Facebook and all the others are filtered, and we don't know what we're not seeing, and we're not necessarily seeing what we want to see because it all depends on our behavior. Robert Scoble probably has the best some of the best content on how to make your Facebook feed as good as possible. But again, that means you have to be willing to be less supportive and less involved in people who are promoting and wanting to be supportive, because if you do that, then that's what you're going to see, and you're not going to see the articles and the videos and stuff. But anyways, my point is like, if you look at user experience, right, the way we navigate Netflix, I keep using Netflix because I think they are the dragon. They were the unicorn. They became the dragon. And what I mean by that is their user experience is just really good. It's super personalized. It tracks your behavior, but it makes sure that you have access to everything, and you kind of sift through it and you navigate through it. And you can spend a lot of time inside of Netflix if you're trying to consume their content, right? The kind of content. So on Twitter is the same thing. How do you, when someone wants to go and get news, can they have something that's as simple as, say, like a Snapchat discovery, right? If you want to go in there and follow people, can they have something that really makes it easy? How do you really create right now? Because the problem is the timeline has always been the issue. If you follow a lot of people, the timeline's a disaster. Lists are good for professionals. Like you and I can use a list and make them matter, but most people have no idea how to do that.
I think, do you know why we're using lists though? This is my opinion, and I really don't think I've even highlighted this somewhere else. Like, we're using lists because we all screwed up and used Twitter wrong. Because when we started using it, it was follow back. You were building reach and audience. I think the new Twitter user, like if you and I went back to and started over on Twitter again, and we wanted to get the most out of Twitter, we would follow a less amount of people, not even really have to use Twitter lists, because when we wanted to open up the fire hose, we would search for a hashtag or we would search for a common phrase, which I actually think is the power of Twitter. The problem became over the last 4 years, Twitter changed so much that us power users had to resolve to Twitter lists. And the Twitter list is just difficult. It's just a pain it's horrible to manage. But for us power users, that's what we're using it. But I actually think Twitter list the reason us power users are using Twitter lists is the same training they have to give to every new user. Here's when you search for a hashtag. Here's the people you follow that you want all of their content, every single thing they post. Everyone else, you can put them into a list if you want to, or understand which hashtags. Save the hashtags in your saved search, and now you can search that global fire hose and not be overwhelmed by the news feed. Because let's face it, once you become a power user on Twitter, the last thing you do, there's two things you don't do. You don't go to twitter.com, because twitter.com is just pretty painful to manage and use. And the second thing that you do is you don't look at your public news feed. You look at, like right now I have TweetDeck running across the bottom of the screen, and I have 11 columns across the bottom where each thing is organized, and not one of those columns is the fire hose. Not one of them is all of the people I'm following, but I'm following 3 different hashtags that I'm monitoring right now this week. So I think this is interesting play. And Daniel, I'm curious, when we're talking about social media versus social network, this is also where I get into that community conversation, because how do you gain traction on Facebook? your friends tell your friends, or you get that, that pop up in the Facebook thing that says
ads.
Yeah, or ads. Or it's a friend of a friend. Somebody is inviting you or them to like your page. Where on Twitter, we're discovering conversations. I was watching the NHL hockey game last night, which my Penguins lost, which was horrible. But during that, I was also following the hashtag for the NFL draft. And I can tell you, I had some amazing conversations with people about the NFL draft that I am not following. I have no plans on ever following because their description and normal content is not up my alley. But the conversation around something that we had a shared passion about was amazing. So I think of that as it's a community aspect where I can find people that have a common purpose and passion, but I don't have to follow the person. I can follow the conversation that the community is rallying behind.
Yeah, I think that gives a lot of flexibility, but I think there's also another trend at hand, Brian, and because we're kind of in the last few minutes of our podcast run a little over 30 minutes for those of you that are maybe checking us out for the first time. But is social media versus media in general is a big topic, right? I think brands that are starting to sort of evolve are seeing this convergence, this collision course that social media is on with the media, with the news, right? We're in an age where there's only so many hours to go around, right? There's an abundance of content. There's an abundance of choice. You've got the choice to visit people's owned media. You've got their social media. You've got their earned media. You've got their video. You've got YouTube. You've got, right? And then you actually have the traditional newspapers, magazines, television, right? And we're not even talking much about those things. But the fact is that really what you have is in the experience era, right? You're in the attention era where you want to get people, give them the best experience to consume what is most relevant to them in the little pockets of time they have. And I think that's what we really have to talk about is where is social networking going? Where is social media going? Will social media even be a word in 3 or 4 years, Brian? I mean, is Twitter actually out in front of it with what they're doing here for once in a long time?
That might actually be the most, because if Facebook becomes the internet, which it seems like like in Zuck we trust, like Zuck is literally going to make sure that the internet is gone to every foreign country and things that are going on. But if Facebook becomes more of the internet, and we all know that Google is horrible at social networks, so we don't even have to think about that. So Google is still the search and the catalog database of the internet. The idea of media and news, I mean, I think you're onto something there, Daniel. This could be the move that has Twitter out in front saying, hey, we're going to provide you the media, the content, the news, the real-time conversation, and then we're going to allow you to filter and manage it as you seem fit. And then when you need to have social media type conversations, you go to, let's face it, Snapchat right now is a very interesting conversation in this arena as well, because why are someone like you and I, Daniel, who have 50,000 plus Twitter followers celebrating when 100 people view our Snapchat stories? Why? What is that? That is the true essence of a social conversation happening versus Twitter, where we have the fire hose. So I think this is an interesting development, and I agree with what you said a little bit earlier. I think Twitter is a big move, but it's either going to be they were the early and first there, or unfortunately, this could be the death of them, because I don't believe they have another massive pivot in them without someone like Google swallowing them and just using them for social listening.
Well, you know what? They could be right and still fail, because half of the battle with disrupting is disrupting and timing. But I do think they're at a pivot point. I do think they have to make a big move. I think to some extent this is a very low risk big move, because I don't think the people who are the 340 million odd Twitter users that are loyal aren't going anywhere just because of the way they changed their identity. I think the real question is are they going to use this pivot to actually use this NFL agreement, use the fact that people are sort of exhausted by having these nouveau social networks dictate to them what they're seeing, and that maybe they do want to have access to news unfiltered from a variety of sources in one place by following just one word in real time. I mean, there is a lot to be said for that. I think if and maybe there's a case, Brian, maybe you shouldn't be their CEO, but maybe you should be their chief training officer, their chief experience officer, because the long and the short, someone needs to teach people in a very short order how the hell to use the platform and how to use it quickly. But I also think there could be at a pivot point where they could almost completely blow it up. Don't go to long form.
No.
Don't go to algorithm. Go something completely different and give us a way to actually find what's most relevant, keep it pure, keep it unfiltered, add the media element, the live streams on Periscope, bring the media to you, right? Because Periscope could be that avenue. It could be all the channels that are traditional media start using Periscope and then embed that right into the Twitter experience where I can have that live engagement, but not having to use Periscope. I can still use Twitter, which is what most people would prefer.
And I love that. And Daniel, I want to go a little bit further on this, so we might go a couple minutes longer. So for those that are listening, bear with us. But someone, in the comments was talking about, the 24-hour disappearing on Snapchat. And I actually think about that as the fear of missing out or FOMO. But there's an element where the difference between Snapchat and Twitter is it's real time versus the right time. Snapchat, you have to consume the content at the right time because 24 hours from now, it's going to disappear, right? So that you're getting the chronological story in the right order from the last 24 hours. So you're going to check Snapchat on a regular basis because of that element. Well, the same reason you go to Twitter for real-time news. So Daniel, I'm curious, I'm going to pose this to you. I believe you did a Facebook Instant article this week, and that's probably a topic for another show. But is Facebook becoming the long-form blog internet, Snapchat becoming the right-time conversation social network, and then the real-time interaction with the world being Twitter?
Brian froze. Uh-oh, reboot. Let's see if Brian can come back real quickly and we can defrost him. I like that. Just 1 second here.
Twitter be that? The power just went out on my place. There you go.
That makes sense. Yep. All right, we're back.
All right, sweet. We're back. Yeah, we'll chop that up. But yeah, I think what I was kind of finishing up there with, if we think of Facebook as the long form, and we think of Snapchat as that real-time conversations and storytelling for 24 hours worth of content that you have to consume, and Twitter is the place where you go for breaking news and real-time media, that could be the play. And because Facebook Insta articles, you just wrote one, right?
Yeah, I don't write them very often, but I'm starting to find myself wanting to be there more, as I think LinkedIn's a disaster. Their publishing platform has lost most validity with me. I liked it early on when it was somewhat limited. And then when they opened it up, now it's just become a spam folder for me. Most of the content is super self-promotional and it's just garbage. So, I think with Facebook, it is contextualization of content, not just dropping links, right? You just drop a link in Facebook, you're going to get very little engagement. It's our job to bring it further, contextualize it, open doors, start conversations. And Facebook's really not encouraging people to put links. They're encouraging you to put your long format content there. I'm hoping Facebook at work kind of destroys LinkedIn, and then our lives can get back to just a couple of networks to have to manage. But I could see that happening, Brian. I could actually see Periscope plus Twitter coming together to make Twitter the ultimate real-time social network for both, short to long form video and real-time content. So sports, shows, events, live TV, and then adding that social element. So instead of socializing with a hashtag and watching it elsewhere, just do all of it inside the platform. So not so much about talking heads, Brian, and not so much about, personal brands, but really about bringing back quality media. And maybe it's still raw and transparent, like I know you like. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that quality media. So putting a news reporter inside the locker room, right? Bringing people down to the sidelines on the field, people at the event, at the Grammys, at the awards, right? Backstage at the recording of your favorite Modern Family or show, right? With a studio audience. Bring me inside the show, give me access, and let me socialize it right on the platform that I actually like best, the rawest. And dude, I love looking up your nose, by the way.
You like that, don't you? Yeah.
That is a great view.
For those that are listening, I had to switch. This is the true SMACtalk. We have to use the mobile aspect here. And my internet went down. My power went out. My power just came back on. But I switched to my mobile device. So we're recording this from my mobile phone. So the audio quality might jump a little bit there. But, this is a great conversation, Daniel. It actually is kind of fun to see where it went. We just kind of threw this topic out there. And we both come on here and just did a little, rapping about it. We had 66 people come through and listen to this live. So thank you, everybody who's watching and listening live as well. But it'll be interesting. Time will tell. Mark this episode down, a year from now, maybe even 6 months from now, when Twitter, the NFL deal is halfway through its conversation. is Twitter now the real-time news outlet, and we don't even think of it as comparing it to Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram? And what does that mean for Twitter? I mean, time will tell. I know both you and I, Daniel, love the platform enough to hope that it's in its best interest. So, Daniel, I'll let you wrap a bow on this, and then we will send our audience on its way.
Well, my hope here, Brian, is that maybe, just maybe, someone forwards this on to someone at Twitter, and maybe they're hearing us and saying, hey, is what we're saying is similar to what's in line and what's in store from them. I have to think that all that money, those billions of dollars that they've spent and not returned yet, right? They're still a unicorn, but they have time to become a dragon.
Oh.
But for this episode of SMACtalk Live, Brian Fanzo, always a great way to end my week, spending it with you on the podcast. We look forward to getting these published. We're going to start this week, and they're going to be up and new every week on Friday. So Thursday, Cloud Talk, Friday, SMACtalk. And for those of you that want to follow us live, keep your eyes on the hashtag Sapphire Now, because in 2 weeks, we're going to be taking Facebook Live and giving it a whole new meaning to B2B and tech when we go to Orlando. So thank you, everybody.
Have a good weekend.